Hey guys, and welcome to the next video from the Fairy Tales. And today I have a special guest. Now, you may have met him before because he was in my 5,000 subscriber Q&A, I think it was. And his name is Jack.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going great, thanks.
That's good.
I've come a long way, since the 5,000 subs. Over 11,000 now. Holy shit. Anyway, today we're here to discuss the future of combat. So I'm sure you've heard about the combat rework, which is coming at the later this summer, which was stated in a news post on, I think it was Friday, saying that this week they'll be giving more information basically on when we could sign up for it and or whatever would be happening with the beta. But it's been confirmed that it'll be coming out on June the 25th, I think it was, and we'll be able to access the beta servers and test out the new combat rework. But what was drawn to my attention by someone a few days ago was this post in the forums, which is basically just summarising everything that was said at Runefest. What basically one of the insider sessions of Runefest 2011 was called the future of combat, and this basically discussed this combat rework, which is obviously already been started in development, and obviously you can see how long it's taken. And obviously I have read this before. I read it pretty much the day after Runefest, and I even saw a video of it on YouTube, but I couldn't find that video on YouTube now anymore. So all I've got is this forum thread, which pretty much says everything that has been said. So I'm basically, me and Jack are going to discuss this and everything that's there and see what the combat rework could actually be like. This adds basically a lot of information about the combat rework. However, one disclaimer is the fact that everything in this thread was basically what JMods thought it might be in 2011. At Runefest, which is what was it, October, I think it was?
It's quite a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was ages ago, so things always change. RuneSpan was nothing like it is now, and that was announced at Runefest. So you can say the time frame is huge. So anyway, to get started, basically, the introduction just says they exist about the intro and I think I just literally just threw up or something trying to talk. But anyway, yeah, so the first post is the existing combat triangle, and basically is an introduction about the current combat in RuneScape. So as it just says pretty much what everyone already knows about melee, magic and range, and how melee beats range, magic beats melee, and range beats magic, or that's at least how it should be. But it's just pretty much saying that this doesn't work, and sums up why it doesn't work, saying that melee beats magic and range beats magic, and everything else, it just pretty much says what's generally happening at the minute. And obviously many people have been discussing how they could fix this, and then they have announced this combat rework. But how would you say they should have fixed the combat triangle before they did this combat rework? Jack?
Sorry what?
Are you just completely ignoring me while I'm asking you questions?
Sorry,
you are a shit guest, dude.
Well, I thought you were just doing some intro.
Yeah, so, well, that means you shouldn't pay attention. Right, anyway, so how do you think they should have fixed the combat triangle without doing this combat rework?
Well, they've introduced a few items to the game, like Gano, which is overpowered in my opinion. I haven't really used it, but because you can just go to Corp, you tank it out like a pro. But you're using melee defense, magic defense armor, but you're using a melee weapon, but it doesn't even affect you that much because it's so overpowered. So introducing that, it hasn't really fixed it, but which I thought is what they were trying to do. But I think they should probably take a few hints from other games, may get a bit of hate for this, but WoW, because they've done things quite well. But with RuneScape, it's always a bit different, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, well, you do look at the other games like World of Warcraft and you say the combat is a lot more interactive, and basically you have to try a lot harder. Obviously one of the current major problems with combat in RuneScape is it's just click Hellhound, wait for it to die, then attack the next one, sort of thing. But I say what you mean for the corpse stuff, because you'll be wearing Gano, which is actually mage attack bonus, and you'll be meleeing, which makes no sense. Why should you be doing that? It's pretty stupid. Corp, which attacks mainly with mage, why do you not range it? The predominantly the best method to do it is with a spear, which is a melee weapon, which makes no sense, as they actually mentioned in this thread later on. But anyway, to go to the next post, it's down about the DPS of weapons, and pretty much during this it says during this section of the insider session, they showed graphs on screen of basically the DPS of everything in pretty much max gear. So it's pretty much that DPS does change obviously with your skill levels, but going off the best circumstances, they showed you what the maximum DPS was, and it obviously showed that melee was hugely overpowered, and the fact that range only just beats melee in DPS against mages, which is obviously quite wrong going by the combat triangle, which is what it says. And it says that the statistics for fighting a range-based opponent were rather orderly. So using a magic weapon or magic spells against a ranger is really bad, and using melee is really good, which is how it's meant to be. But that's, I think, simply because the melee is overpowered, and that is why that falls into place. But it is rather bad how the combat triangle's fallen out, but it's just because, obviously, as they release new weapons, they released a few melee weapons, like, obviously God Swords got released, you had whips, you've got chaotics, now obviously you got chaotic rapier and staff, but the chaotics for the melee are so much more powerful. Like, when the Sea Saber was actually released, it was really weak compared to the Rune Saber, but they actually did increase it. But range is still not good enough, in my opinion.
Well, you can just like walk into the wilderness and you'll see probably 80% of the people are meleeing, and
yeah,
even if like chaotic maul, you can just whack out a few 500, 600s in a row. But you can't do that with a chaotic crossbow, can you? So
yeah, that is the problem. Like, you might be able to go to Nex and hit a 500 with a Ruby Bolt, but that's simply because the Ruby Bolt has a special that does a percentage damage to the HP. Now, since Nex's HP is enormous, the percentage damage is enormous, and that 500 cap is actually that 500 hit is actually capped at 500. You can't actually hit for over 500 on Nex. Like, even if you take a chaotic molten Nex, it will be capped at 500.
Alright.
Which is quite weird.
I thought it's quite bad. I can understand the cap.
Like, the only reason the cap's there, I think, is for the Ruby Bolts, because if you use Ruby Bolts on Nex, you'd hit 2,000, 3,000. So, like, even in Corp, you hit 1,000, and it's capped at 1,000 there. It's quite strange. But that's pretty much the only decent range weapon is the Ruby Bolt. And the only other place you'd use range is Criara for Armadillo. That's simply because you have to.
Yeah. It's like, you wouldn't want to, but because you have to, and it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah. It should be... You might want to use range sometimes instead of melee, and you should still be able to have an advantage with it, but you don't. Like, the only reason people use mage in the wilderness, in the wilderness, mixed between wildy and wilderness much. But yeah, the only reason you'd use mage is simply because of the little special attacks, like Ice Barrage, obviously it frees the player. Vengeance, obviously, because it's a very special move, because it reflects damage. But the fact is, people use Vengeance while using melee, and so that is kind of a problem.
Well, it's Storm of Armadillos now, which you do see quite a few people are using.
That's got a huge DPS, and Magic has had quite a few boosts lately, and it's definitely range that is really the lacking one at the minute, because basically the issue is, if you're in Magic gear, it's got no melee defense. Obviously Genodermic fixed that and made it only weak to range, but the problem is really that Genodermic has no stab defense. So basically Rapier's still wreck, and it defeats the point. It should have been strong against all melee types, but other than that it can still be wrecked. So it's quite weird, but it's just saying a few bits about the DPS things and generally like about the combat triangle at the minute, and it's saying about how melee has attack and strength skills, but magic and range only have one, sort of thing. And defense is left out because it benefits all combat styles. Because if you didn't know, defense actually obviously will stop you from getting hit by range attacks and melee attacks and everything. So, but also during the workshop, it says he's mentioned here that the moderators made it clear that no extra combat skills will be added with this combat rework. So do not expect another skill, because I know it says later on that somebody asked basically, can we have a magic skill and a magic combat? Because they do mention that most people get 99 magic by training on the skills rather than actually training combat, which magic is a combat skill. Like, obviously in the past it was more predominantly that people would get 99 by alching. I know you got 99 by alching because you're such a noob.
Yeah, I'm a pro though. You just got it at like Iron Dragons, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually went to Iron Dragons and maged them. So I actually did do combat. That's simply because I didn't want to waste any money on it. Because I wasn't the most pro player back then, let's just say.
You weren't too bad.
But not too bad. Well, I did a good job. I managed to max, so...
Yeah, finally.
But, yeah, anyway, it says now it's going into a bit more about the armor rework, about armor and defensive statistics. So in general, what it says is, we're just trying to get the physical update. All armor in the game will have the statistics change, because this is basically the issue, is the fact in the gear for melee, it doesn't really give you many attack bonuses. Like, it's all in your weapon and your offhand and things like that. But in magic and ranged, the most of your attack bonuses are in the gear. So that is an issue. And he's saying basically negative bonuses on armor, such as melee's armor's magic defense, will be significantly lower to reflect the combat triangle. So basically, instead of minus 10 mage defense, you might have minus 100. So basically, mage will be even more accurate on you than it has ever before. So basically, if you go into the wilderness with full rune on and someone attacks you with fire surge, you're going to get wrecked to shit. Basically, it's that sort of thing that is actually going to be better, and it's going to be this in similar circumstances with them all. And he's saying, as the issue I just mentioned, the attack bonuses on armor will be removed, basically putting the bonuses all on your weapons. So, to take Nexon for example, you obviously, Pernix is a huge bonus at the minute, because if you wear full Pernix, you've got a huge range bonus in comparison to if you're an Armadillo. Now, if you're going to go now, after this update, if Pernix doesn't have any attack bonuses, it says it may well be removed. So, please note, this obviously could be changed by now, and we don't know exactly what will happen. But if Pernix had its attack bonuses removed, Armadillo had it removed, and it all went into the Sabo, and your boots, and maybe your boots anyway, and your rings and things like that, then surely it's going to have an impact on the prices. Now this is something I'm kind of worried about, that all the top gears may be affected in price, because your DPS might be the same in Armadillo's Pernix, which makes no sense.
It depends how they do it really, because they've mentioned later on that all armor's getting a LP boost, so obviously the top armors are going to have better benefits, but
yeah,
it's kind of hard to tell.
Pernix update is really useful at next for that LP boost, and hopefully that is still very good. But possibly like in the way that Bandos has a few strength bonus, it doesn't really have much attack bonuses, but it has strength bonus, which makes it obviously definitely worth using over like Proselyte. You will actually have faster killing. And it also says damage soaking, it will in all likelihood be abolished, so we could probably take that as it probably is going to go, because this was added, and it pretty much in the when I watched the Insider session, I do remember Mod Crystal pretty much saying that he hates damage soaking, and wishes it was never added. So since he's the GMod in charge of doing this combat rework, he's obviously going to remove it. So we can expect to see that removed, but I kind of don't agree with the damage soaking anyway. But if you look at Ganodermic, we can see that it's got like almost a 50% mage damage reduction.
And that's why it's overpowered.
Yeah, that is why it's overpowered. Because Ganodermic, it costs like, what, a few mil?
It's so ridiculous.
And it's like, if you go to Corp in that, you just can't get a hit. Well,
they
yeah,
could have
you
made
can't
it
get
better,
hit, but
because of the whole release of Ganodermic with the Ganodermic Beast. If they made the drop slightly rarer, then it would be maybe a bit better, but because I remember going there, I made probably about 40-50 mil first day, about the same the next day.
It's the main problem with Ganodermic Beast is the sticks drop every 1 second. It is ridiculous how common they are for something that reduces the Polypore Staff, which is another addition to the mage skill, which, to be honest, was very much needed. It's a very good weapon, because of the simple fact that you don't have to autocast. And that is something I hope to change with the combat rework, how you cast spells, how you do ranged attacks. Well, it actually says mentioned in here they were on about keyboard shortcuts for magic spells, like holding control and then a number, or pressing a number to cast a certain spell. So that's something that could be awesome, because currently if you want a hybrid and switch from say melee to magic, you've got to turn autocast off, and that's a nuisance. It really does bug me. Like the old autocast system was even worse, because you had to actually go into your staff settings, didn't you?
I remember that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, you had to have a staff to autocast. But it does also mention that since most of the attack bonuses will be going in the weapons, staffs will be a lot more useful than in the current state. So hopefully that should make the chaotic staff even better. And going into staffs in general, the Armadillo Battle Staff is a very good weapon, I think, because of the simple fact that it does really help with that spell. It increases your cast rate, so it's going to have a great impact on the DPS. And I think that's a very good idea for the Armadillo Battle Staff.
Yeah, probably go off in price, to be fair.
Yeah, well, we can't exactly predict until we know what's in the update, but we can say that. But This is something that's very interesting, that if this is still going to be in the game, this should be pretty awesome. It says that positive defensive bonuses on armor will be boosted. So basically, if you're in melee, and you're going to fight someone in melee, obviously melee is weak against you, and even range is even weaker. So your defense bonuses against range and melee will be a lot higher. So kind of like in Gano now, you've got pretty high mage defense, and you've got even higher melee defense. That is the way of Gano, is that it is right in the combat triangle. However, it is obviously overpowered because no other armor in the game currently is actually like that. But if all armor's changed like that, then it's surely not overpowered because that's the norm. And they're going for a massive combat rework, so it could work, and fights probably will be lasting longer and things. But we can see what happens with that. That could be quite interesting. I'm really looking forward to the combat rework.
I think it'll bring like a new edge to clan PKing really, because you're going to need a lot more hybrids, a lot more rangers and whatever to counter everyone.
Yeah, you're not going to have everyone in melee and a few mages. You're going to have to actually have a full team. Some rangers, some mages, some melees, and some people that might switch, more people switching gear, just to make sure you hit every corner of that combat triangle. But it also says this will represent an aura effect in which magical powers block melee attacks. These defensive stats will still only affect the likelihood of the opponent missing rather than reducing damage. So basically, if you don't know how the combat actually works in the game, what it does is it rolls one dice, effectively 0 or 1, and if it's a 1 it's a hit, if it's a 0 it's a miss. So if you hit a 0 then obviously nothing else happens, it's a 0. But if you hit a hit, then you roll another dice, which is between 1 and your max hit, and then that's what you'll basically hit. But obviously this dice from 1 to your max hit is weighted towards like your average hit, you know? You're more likely to hit your average hit, obviously. Because if you're in top gears and your max hit's 600, then you're probably more likely to hit a 300 plus than a 1, basically. That's sort of but that's how it works currently. And this basically what it said here is that the aura would only affect the likelihood of missing. So it just means it's weighted more towards the 0 side of that first dice, sort of thing. I hope that explains that very well. What do you say I did, Jack? What do you say I did?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Well played, well played.
I'm just a master of dice, you know. No, I'm not saying I'm a dice host, you know.
Oh, that would just be bad.
Yeah, I would never host dice. But anyway, to get into the attack bonuses more, he's pretty much saying more about the attack bonuses on the armor, like, and especially magic staves. So magic staves are obviously going to get a huge boost to definitely boost the magic skill, but it's range that I think really needs to boost. So hopefully that happens. And as he says, range gets a large accuracy boost from armor. So basically, like wearing Pernix is a massive bonus, you know. Whilst melee gets 99% of accuracy from the weapons, as I've previously said, really. And he also uses free-to-players on example. In fact, if you go to free-to-play, everyone uses a scimitar, despite maces and battle axes having better strength and accuracy bonuses. And he says, well, the speed and bonuses of these will be balanced. So effectively, I think the other weapons will be boosted. Because currently, obviously, if you go to the regular weapons, you have, say if you're a level 60 attack character, obviously you want a dragon weapon. Everyone goes for the dragon scimitar. That's simply because it is the best. Now, why is the battle axe never used? Apart from a spec weapon. Why is the trying to think, what else is it? Dragon mace. Why is that never used as a regular weapon? They're just not, because they're shit.
The problem is you have this problem in every game, because everyone wants to be the best, they want to do the best, so the best weapon you can, you're going to have to use. But to make everything balanced, you're going to have to hopefully do what they're doing, and make things have a purpose for each use. So each time, even though you might not get the best damage, you're still going to get a good amount of damage per weapon that you're using.
I sort of get what you mean, like, giving a mace is more powerful against a certain creature than a scimitar, sort of thing.
Yeah, for instance, if they're wearing, I'm not sure what they're doing about this, like a plate body, you would use, I'm just going to say mace, I don't know which one it is, but if they're wearing like a chain, you'd use stab, I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but it does say the speed and bonuses of these will be balanced, so possibly like using a mace is no better than using a scimitar and vice versa. So you actually have a choice of weapon, and it could just be more like sort of special in the fact that everyone's not looking identical and you can pick whichever one you like. Because actually a mace might be slower, but it might have the same DPS anyway. So you could just hit higher hits. So potentially in PvP it's probably more likely to hit a KO because person's got to have could have higher HP and still get hit for a kill.
That's kind of what they did with the Maul and the Rapier.
Yeah, the Maul, Rapier and CLS are quite well balanced, I'd say. They are very similar. Other than the weaknesses, if a monster is just weak to Crush, Stab and Slash, they are very similar in DPS. Like, if you go to Bandos, which is pretty much equal for Rapier and CLS, honestly, it is very similar, and it's very hard to tell them apart.
It just goes to luck of the draw, whoever gets the drop.
Yeah, it's kind of that. It's because Graar obviously has so low HP, it's really hard to make a massive difference. If it had 100k HP, by then you might figure out which one's best, but...
That'd be funny.
Yeah, this is part of the post, is something that I'm very interested in, which basically is saying at the minute what each weapon has as attack styles. Like Godsword has Crush and Slash, Dagger is a stab weapon, Whip is a slash, Rapier is a stab slash, but obviously slash. Slash. But yeah, Rapier is a stab slash, obviously just use stab though because it's stupid if you use slash for
Just say
Rapier.
it again.
Yeah, and obviously one issue is the fact that if you use stab with a Rapier, you've got to train strength or control, I think. You can't train attack or defense. I think you can train attack.
Wait, with what?
With a Rapier. I'm not 100% sure, but I know
with
certain
a Rapier
weapons...
You can train everything with the Rapier.
Yeah, you can, but with certain attack styles, I mean, if you're using stab, you might not be able to train defense. I'm not 100% sure, but I know there is some weapons where you can't. Yeah. So you've got to use a certain style. Like, I know Dragon Claw specials, to use slash, you've got to train strength. And this is why everyone in-game trains strength, not attack and defense in general. Like, everyone has high strength XP, but not attack and defense after 99. But obviously a whip is all control, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, well, I know you can train attack.
No, you can train attack and defense and then the others are controlled, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that. But what he's saying is, now imagine if you could use a Maul or to slash or a whip to crush. Obviously that's crazy, but then again the attack bonus of them will be extremely low, so that it would be stupid to do it. But you could do it.
Should still do it if you wanted to.
Yeah, you could do it if you wanted to. So obviously if you use a whip to crush, it's going to be like, how are you going to get crushed by a fucking, like, snake? But what he's saying, what he goes in there is, something that would please a lot of purers who do not wish to gain experience in certain skills is the introducing of choosing what skill to train. So basically what they're going to be doing is, you can use stab, which is you could use the accurate stance, like the top left one, and train strength or defense. So basically,
not really want to do that the pure normally.
Yeah, if you want to train defense only, but you want to use slash style, the top right one, aggressive, you know, and still train in defense, then you will be able to do that. But whether that will actually still be happening, who knows? But it seems like they're saying that is happening in that.
I'm sure they will, because you get all those pures that are like, have you ever seen the videos on YouTube where they're like, oh yes, just on a crazy spec, and then it's just like, you have 3 defenses. Oh.
Good fucking fight. Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't agree with pures. I obviously I see why they do it, but I don't agree with them being possible. It shouldn't be possible, and it should definitely be more beneficial to train defense. Like, why is it not more beneficial to go and train defense? It should be, because this proves that defense is pretty much useless. And it says in this post later on that basically defense will get rid of pures. So effectively that's regardless of what that says.
I think you'll still be able to have pures though.
You still will be able to, but it's pretty much saying that you will be at a disadvantage kind of thing. And
they'll get rid of
there will still be techniques of which skills are best to train. Like, it might be useful to just get 80 defense now instead of getting 1.
Yeah. Oh, for God's sake, I just got a maze random.
Good fight. What are you doing, like?
Training prayer.
Training prayer, you absolute nerd. No XP waste for you.
I know, I thought, you know, why not?
Yeah. Well, the next post is very interesting. Basically saying every armor set will have a life point boost. Even bronze and frog armor, as in frog armor, like the ones you get from the random event, I assume. But it's pretty much saying it's partly to buff out the removal of damage soaking, and this will allow higher tier weapons in. So basically, currently the best weapons can probably hit. In Darox you can easily hit over 1,000, but obviously that's an extreme circumstance. But that's a one hit, pretty much. So how can you produce more powerful weapons when you use them? You're going to one hit everyone. So how is that going to work? You need higher LP. So basically this is what this is going to do. In all gear, your HP is going to be boosted dramatically. And he's saying don't worry, because players with maxed hit points, constitution, which is a nice joke there, I like it.
I do
and
like that.
full next armor to have around 4,000 life points. So obviously we don't know if that's changed from this Runefest discussion, and obviously that's a very specific detail. So don't expect that to be an exact number, but you get the idea that if you're wearing Pernix, you will still have a higher LP boost than if you're in Armadillo. So you will still see a huge advantage of having them top gears, but whether with the stat changes they'll still be useful, who knows. But I hope they really will be more useful, because obviously in Pernix you're going to have a much higher mage defense than in Armadillo now, because it's going to be dramatically improved. So hopefully Pernix will still be a lot more useful. Did you just slap a fly against the wall or something?
It was my my headset clip. Anyway, this bit's really interesting though, because you're going to have a lot higher LP, so I'm not sure if they're going to increase the damage of monsters, because you're going to be able to still die the same amount, because you could easily just save up to higher hit points and whatever.
There's so much to think about, isn't there? Because I mean, surely this is going to make fights a lot longer.
Yeah, and you're going to get a lot more people like, oh, don't save.
Well, I mean, it's hard to think about it, because if they're doing a huge combat change, the way you fight is going to be completely different. And think about staking. Like, this is something I've only just really thought about, but staking currently is just box 50-50. Well, it's not exactly 50-50, but it's pretty much 50-50. And obviously boxing, there's very little skill to it. But after this, is it going to be the way that everyone just goes in max gear and tries to fight, and actually has a proper fight, staking money, rather than going for a 50-50? But who knows? I kind of imagine people will still do 50-50, if that's possible or not. But only time can say about that. But to be fair, I'd like the dual arena to be used properly. People don't fight properly, is the issue.
The problem is at the moment, if people are like, oh yeah, whip fight, you're just bringing a rapier and absolutely
that's the problem, isn't it? You pretty much got to be max gear with max stats to be able to possibly do a proper fight. And
unless
that's why
they
people
change
don't
the dual arena itself, like, you could select use this weapon.
If you can see your opponent's invent, that would definitely solve an issue with staking, to me.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't go staking, I've never been for a long time, because I just simply don't want to risk losing my money. But I know a lot of people have lost money because they just get stuck to it. Addicted is the word I'm looking for.
I've lost probably about 400 mils.
Noob. Wouldn't say, it's just silly. Unless you know what you're doing, don't bother. That is what you're meant to do.
It's just, you're meant to quit while you're ahead, but you just don't, do you?
Yeah, because you just get greedy and want more.
Exactly.
But basically, what it's saying here is, not only will this allow higher damage weapons, it will allow the removal of one-hitting and power play fights, based on whoever has the best special weapon. Because if you imagine the wilderness now, a lot of the fighting is not about what you're hitting with, but how good your special weapon is. Because basically, all it is hope your spec hits 400 when they're on 400 HP, sort of thing. Like, if you get 2 lucky claw specs, you might kill them. If you get a lucky AGS spec, you might kill them. It's not about your regular weapon, really, as such. Which, basically, what they say, it wants it to be like that. And they're saying fights will be much more interesting, needing more skill and timing, along with the tight changes to the defensive armor. So your defensive armor is gonna have a huge impact in comparison to how it is now, and you're gonna need timing. You're gonna need skill to fight. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be AFK to fight anymore. So it's gonna be basically a huge change to combat, and I imagine a lot of people will hate this.
But I think once I get used to it, it'll be a lot more fun in the long run.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That is the same with all change. Remember the interface change to what it is now? Everyone was like, let's go back. But now, who even cares? It looks better.
It does look a lot better. Anyway. I remember Jagex have stated, they're like, yeah, with most of our updates, everyone does not like them at the start, but after a while, people are like, actually, you did the right thing.
No one likes Wheel of Fortune.
Apart from that. Although that is still quite fun.
Actually, sorry, 90% of people like it. Anyway, one issue I'm thinking of is Slayer.
Yeah, I did think about that. I'm not sure if it's going to be easier.
Because obviously task length. If fights are going to be harder and longer, surely a task's going to take longer.
HP by fights, do they mean fights with bosses or...
Yeah, fights with players. It's tough to tell. I imagine everything's going to have a huge... Everything's going to have a huge impact. I imagine summoning creatures fighting are going to be updated. Well, I hope so, because now they're currently shit. They're just so dumb. The AI of them is awful. So hopefully that's dramatically improved. Hopefully, I'd imagine something like controls of them. Steel Titan, if you didn't know, attacks with melee, range, and magic, but it's pretty much random whichever one it uses. So why don't they let you select which one you want it to use? Because range is generally by far the best always for it. So I don't see why they don't let you have more control over them. And that was something that I'd really like to see. But Slayer, what about your cannon as well? Everything's going to have to be changed. There's so much. You can see why this is taking over like a year to be developed.
So they need to get every aspect right, because even one aspect could kind of mess.
It's going to mess up the whole. It's the game changer. As they said, it's the evolution of the game now, and it's literally going to change an awful lot. And even Slayer XP rates is going to have to be something they even look into. Everything, money per hour killing green dragons. Everything has to be taken into account.
Hopefully it'll be good and it'll bring more players into the game and we can get back a new community like it used to be, but...
Yeah. Sorry, that's hopefully something that should happen. But something that's interesting as well is boss fights. Because surely it's going to have a massive impact on boss fights. And obviously the QBD is coming out this month. Are they going to have to change the QBD straight away for combat rework?
I'd say they would have thought about that and kind of allowed it to be changed. But who knows?
Who knows what they're going to change? I mean, surely going to Bandos is going to be dramatically different if you've got a proper fight and everything. But anyway, he's saying about range that it's not benefited, and he's basically saying players think Pernix, Vigor, and Chaotic Crossbow improve range, but they came out obviously with the counterparts from the other parts of the combat triangle. But he says I expect to see some high level range equipment and some jiggling of attack statistics and maybe range strength bonuses, but I don't think we've really seen any of that, have we?
Not really.
This obviously is from October, but nothing's seen of that yet. So obviously I expect to see a lot of this with the combat rework. So there's a big section on the magic skill.
This bit's really interesting. I do like this bit.
Well, you talk about it then.
Well, the main part from this bit is they're going to have a hotbar, which I don't know if any of you have played WoW, but you have like spells at the bottom and you can kind of click them for one-off use, and then it will have like a recharge time. I'm not really sure what they'll do with that, but I really like that idea because that means you have to switch to the other tab, go back, change back to weapon. But if it was just a little on-screen kind of whatever, click it, attack the player, ice barrage done, switch to whatever.
Yeah,
it could be a really interesting kind of thing.
Yeah, that is something that should be awesome. I mean, it says in here, I know there'll be comments about being copied from WoW, but face it, a huge number of games use hotbars, and there's no other way you're getting around it. What other interface can you possibly use to have more interesting combat? It's the perfect solution, and obviously it's not going to be like that. It's different spells, it's completely different, and you're going to have, it says here, maybe a control plus a number will be used for, obviously, keyboard shortcuts. So this does hint that keyboard shortcuts will be added in this update, and possibly they can do it with lots of other things. That would be very good. Like, I know players have always asked for like pressing escape to close your bank or any interface you've got open, and many other things like familiar special attack, press F9 sort of thing. Like,
that would really help the game.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, it's going to be a game changer, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Should be definitely awesome. It's going to be certainly fun to try out in the beta service. And the good thing about the beta service coming out is we'll all have good time to practice using it before it comes into game, because obviously it's going to come into game and people are not going to be able to go and do a Slayer task unless we've practiced it. So obviously at the minute you pretty much do everything with your mouse. The only thing you do with your keyboard is move the camera and possibly change what invent you're on. Like, I know I use the F keys, don't know about you.
I use them bosses, but not like everyday use.
Yeah, well, I first started using them when I first went to Tormented Demons, and ever since I left that first trip I used them everywhere. So it's just got addicted to having my hand at the top of the keyboard to switch. It really does speed things up. Anyway, more into this magic thing is pretty much saying that skilling spells and combat spells, he's saying about how people use skilling to train combat, but he's going to say
what they're going to change there. They just said we'll look into it.
Yeah, he's pretty much said they're going to encourage combat magic to be used, but how they'll do that doesn't matter. I'm not quite sure. Maybe they'll increase XP rates or make it easier to get runes, because I think one reason melee is priority used is the fact that it doesn't cost. Using magic you gotta buy runes, using range you gotta buy arrows.
Yeah, because you just buy a weapon and you just kill stuff.
I mean, obviously with rapiers and stuff it does degrade, but most stuff degrades at the higher end, so it doesn't matter whether you use magic or range anyway. But another thing he mentions is currently the damage done with mage is based on your spell and not the actual level. This was changed with Armadyl Storm, or Storm of Armadyl even, and I'm not sure if it does that on Polypore too. I assume it does, and that is obviously the way to go, because obviously if you increase your strength level, you hit higher. It's not based on your weapon. Like, Kieren Rapier has not got a max hit of 200. It goes on your strength, it goes on your stats, and what other gear you're wearing.
It's just the way it should be.
Yeah. He also mentions rune holders, and basically about something to hold your runes that you save your invent space, and something like that, so that, because I know having your runes in your invent is quite a nuisance. As he also mentions the surge boxes, but he says they're useless. I actually like the surge boxes.
Yeah, I use it for glaciers.
Yeah, a lot of players use them, so I think it's a bit wrong with saying that the surge boxes are useless. I know I really like it because I hit a double 900 plus on a glacier with it.
It's good to see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's actually mentioned in this post, but I remember them saying something about how the elemental spells are going to be used a lot more. So if you're attacking, say, a fire elemental for whatever reason, if you used a water spell, that would be a lot more effective than, say, a fire spell.
Yeah, that's something I think. I think that was mentioned in the Mod Crystal podcast with Runeshark.
Yeah.
About that, and because they were basically asked, fire's the best spell and air's shit. Why that? Basically, like, to me, all the surge spells should be the same in terms of power, and then each one should be more powerful against its weakness. Kind of like Pokemon types.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Like, if you have played Pokemon, you might understand this reference, that you've got like fire, flamethrower even, and then you got Thunderbolt. Now, if you look at the stats of these moves, they're both exactly the same. They have a power of, I think, is it 90 or something, and then accuracy of 100. So you can say they're equal, yet you use them, and you use both, in depending on your circumstances. That sort of thing is what I'd like to see with the spells.
What they really could expand is different armors, say, for magic specifically, a kind of fire kind of type armor, which would boost your fire type spells, a water type armor, which would boost your water type spells. Not sure how they'd implement that, but that'd be quite cool to see as well.
There's lots of things they could do. I mean, there's infinite things they could do, really.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wait and see what happens. I know as I mentioned, they are releasing more information on the combat rework this week, and about the beta server, so we should always look forward to that, and I'm sure I'll produce a small video just to tell you about what's going on with that. But the next thing is about the monster rebalancing. So as I've kind of mentioned, that all the monsters will be changed, and it's saying with the rebalancing of players with the rebalancing of players' aspects of combat, monsters must be taken into account also, and he's going on about predominantly the Corporal Beast and Water Fiends. But about the Corporal Beast, is saying it's a magic-based monster, yet it only takes 100% damage from spears, a melee weapon. So he's saying that's pretty stupid because it doesn't agree with the combat triangle.
It doesn't make sense.
And then Water Fiends are even worse because you use magic defense gear and hit it with Crush, which makes no sense. But a light-hearted comment was made by Rathe and about the abundance of charms, yet Mod Crystal said, no, we'll have to leave the charms. Because obviously they drop an amazing amount of charms. I think I remember the video, Mod Rathe said, yeah, and for some unknown reason they drop a huge number of charms. I thought it was pretty funny to
A lot of people do get that. I don't like Water Fiends.
Yeah, most players actually hate Water Fiends, but I think it's simply because of the fact you have to wear magic defense gear. And magic defense gear means like Carol's, like Ganodermic, and it all degrades, and it's so annoying to not have to use your bandos. Oh, but go on to the next page, and then it asks me to log into the site, so one sec.
Right. So you've had their webpage open the whole time for vid as well?
Yeah.
Alright. Okay.
Anyway, to get back into the video, on the next slide, on the next page, you can see there's one last post and it says other specifics, and it's just saying a few things about the AFK training. So as I mentioned, it seems like AFK training is going to be a thing of the past. It says that it'll still be an option, but it'll be less efficient, so he's not sure how it'll work, but an activity bar was suggested and maybe an option for searching where on a monster to attack, gaining better XP. So kind of thing, if you attack the monster's arm, you'll probably hit less, and if you attack the monster's torso, you'll hit more, but you might be under threat more, sort of thing. But it's effectively saying that it's comparable to the lava flow mine, where you can just stand still and AFK mine one piece forever, but you'll gain very little XP in comparison to finding the best slot. So more players who pay attention will be rewarded. So
in my opinion, the activity bar ideas, I don't really like it because I think they did it for Soul Wars or something like that, and
yeah, I don't like the activity bar sort of thing. To be fair, I'd just rather say that in the other way that they'll just get less XP.
Yeah.
Like, how they'll implement this, who knows, but possibly when it's things like killing low-level creatures, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. But if you go to a boss, like Bandos, if you're in top-end gear, you can pretty much AFK, but if you do it properly, you'll get much faster kills, sort of thing. But another comment was made that if you wear heavy armor, you'll hit slower, but he's saying it's not sure if it'll be implemented, but it'd be very interesting to see. But that's pretty much all said about it.
Very complicated.
Yeah. I imagine it would be, to be honest. I think it'd really put players off using the high defensive gear anyway, so I don't think that'll be something that happens. But definitely for Slayer, because I mean, people just go to Slayer to be efficient. You want to get as many kills per hour because you want your best XP.
So at the moment, Slayer's just like, pro this, cannon that.
Yeah, Slayer, there's no skill to it. It's just, if you're at Dog Beast, pre melee. If you're at Everyone Spectre's pre mage, you don't take any damage, you just want to kill them as fast as you can. There's not really much skill to it. But yeah, that's all there is to say about this, guys. And I hope you've enjoyed this little discussion. Well, I say little, but it's 41 minutes. So I always describe things as little when they're long, but I know it's quite a long post. I'll put the quick find code in the description of the video so that you can go and read this if you wish to. You just have to copy this code here that I've just copied, as I'll post it in the description. And you want to post it in this little box up here and click go, and it'll take you directly straight to this thread here. So yeah, and you can have a proper read of it if you wish. It's a very interesting read, and it gives you a lot of insight into the combat rework that is coming out at the end of summer. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed, and thanks to you, Jack, for being on the video.
Very welcome.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it. So see you later, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video.